You're sitting in the back of an Uber and suddenly there's a crash. You weren't driving, you didn't cause it, but now you're hurt and wondering who's actually going to pay for this. Is it Uber's insurance? The driver's insurance? Your insurance? I'm Guy DiMartino. I've helped people across Indiana deal with rideshare injury claims, and this video breaks down exactly how it works when you are a passenger. So you're not left confused, waiting on a company that's in no rush to explain your rights. Okay, picture this. You're riding in the back seat of an Uber in downtown Indianapolis. Maybe you're headed home from Purdue game, or maybe you're just grabbing dinner with some friends. Out of nowhere, there's a loud crash, the car jerks forward, and your heart jumps into your throat. You've just been in an accident. Now what? The first few minutes after an Uber accident are critical, and they're different from what you might do in your own car. As a passenger, you aren't responsible for insurance or exchanging information, but you do need to protect yourself. Here are the steps. First, check yourself and everyone else for injuries. Even if you feel okay, adrenaline can mask pain. If anyone's hurt, be sure to call 911 immediately. In Indiana, it's the law to report accidents involving injury, death, or significant property damage. Next, take photos of everything. The scene, the cars, any visible injuries, and even the Uber driver's ID displayed in the car. These images can be crucial evidence 6 months or a year from now. Then get the names and phone numbers of all drivers plus any witnesses. Even though Uber collects a lot of info through its app, don't count on them to keep everything organized for you. Finally, open your app up and report the accident right away. This will start a digital paper trail and notify Uber's insurance team. You don't have to go through this alone, but starting a record immediately helps protect your rights. Now let's clear up the big question. Who pays for your injuries when you're a passenger in an Uber accident in Indiana? This part confuses a lot of folks, so let me break it down. You're not at fault. As a passenger, it's almost unheard of for you to be blamed unless you jump into the front seat and take the steering wheel and shake the steering wheel. The real question is which insurance policy will cover your losses, and that depends on who caused the crash. If the Uber driver was at fault, say they ran a red light or were distracted, their personal insurance may apply first, depending upon the language of their agreement with Uber, but Uber's commercial policy limits will step in at some point in time. This is a requirement for rideshare companies operating in Indiana. If another driver hit your Uber, things can get a little more complicated. The at-fault driver's insurance will eventually pay your medical bills and your injuries, but you may have to go through Uber's insurance if it has medical payments insurance, or your health insurance, and eventually you'll have to pay your health insurance back. But what if the other driver doesn't have enough insurance or no insurance at all? That's where Uber's under or uninsured motorist coverage kicks in. Let's look at a real example. I had a client who was riding in an Uber to the airport in South Bend. Another car blew through a stop sign and hit them. The other driver only had the state minimum of $25,000 in coverage, which barely covered the ambulance ride. Because Uber's policy had underinsured coverage that was higher than the $25,000, we were able to get the client's hospital bills and treatment paid for and get her compensated for her injuries. Remember, Indiana law requires every driver to carry minimum insurance, but many drivers don't have enough to cover serious injuries. Uber's extra protection is there for situations just like this. When you're hurt as a passenger in Uber, you can seek compensation for a wide range of losses, not just your hospital bills. Here's what you may be able to recover. Your medical expenses, which of course includes ambulance rides, ER visits, doctor's visits, surgery, physical therapy, and potentially future medical care if it's needed. Lost income if you miss work or lose out on wages because of your injuries. Pain and suffering. This one is less concrete, but it's very real. If your injury caused lasting pain, sleep issues, or disrupts your life, Indiana law lets you seek damages for that also. There are other costs that you may be able to get compensated for. These are out-of-pocket expenses, any co-insurance that you may have had to pay, parking fees, going to medical appointments, prescriptions, either the full prescription fee or your co-insurance, medical devices, or even if you needed to get some help and somebody to come in to help you at home if your injuries are severe. Let me tell you about another case that hits close to home. A college student from Bloomington was the passenger in an Uber when the car was rear-ended. The passenger ended up needing back surgery and months of rehab, missing a semester of classes. We helped her recover medical bills, tuition reimbursement, and any additional money for the pain and disruption to her life. Every accident is different, but the law is on your side as a passenger. Don't assume that you're going to be stuck with piles of bills just because you weren't driving. You might be thinking, okay, I'm hurt. I want to get compensated. What do I actually do? Well, here's a step-by-step rundown for Indiana Uber passengers. First, get medical care right away, even if you feel fine. Some injuries like whiplash or concussion show up hours or days later. Your medical records are key evidence in your case. Next, notify Uber through the app as soon as you can. This starts the insurance process. You can also reach out to Uber's support team directly if the app isn't helpful. After that, you'll likely hear from insurance companies, the Uber driver's company, possibly Uber's company, the other driver's company. This is where things can get tricky and complicated. They may ask you for statements, medical records, or even quick settlement offers. Here's some advice. Don't rush to accept the first offer. And don't give a recorded statement until you've talked with a lawyer. Insurance companies want to settle fast and cheap, but your injuries and future costs could be higher than you realize initially. In Indiana, you generally have 2 years from the day of the accident to file a claim. That might sound like a long time, but the sooner you act, the stronger your case will be. Remember, evidence and memories fade. Witnesses become hard to find. The accident scene might change depending upon the season of the year. So who do you actually file your claim with? Well, it depends. If the Uber driver was at fault, you may file through Uber's insurance. If the other driver was at fault, you file through their insurance company and potentially Uber's insurance company if there isn't enough coverage later on. If both drivers share some blame, Indiana law follows modified comparative fault. You can recover damages as long as you're less than 51% at fault, which as a passenger, I'm pretty sure you are less than 51% at fault. A lot of people assume they can handle everything themselves, especially if the accident seems straightforward. Many times that's true, but Uber accidents often have more moving pieces than a regular car crash. Why? Because there could be up to 4 insurance companies involved. Your insurance company, Uber's insurance company, the Uber driver's insurance company, and the other vehicle's insurance company. And if there was more than one other vehicle involved, their insurance company. Each one has different responsibilities, different coverage limits, and different procedures. And none of them are eager to just open up their checkbook and pay you top dollar. A good Indiana personal injury lawyer does 3 main things for Uber accident passengers. Number 1, they figure out which insurance policies apply and go after every one. Number 2, they gather all evidence, photos, witness statements, medical records, Uber ride info so your claim is bulletproof. Number 3, they negotiate to get you settlement that covers all your medical bills, lost work, pain and suffering, and any future care that you may need. Let me give you a quick story. I had a client whose Uber driver rear-ended a truck on I-65. She got a whiplash and a concussion. The insurance company initially offered her $2,000, which was barely enough to cover her ER visit. We intervened, sorted out the insurance mess, and ended up getting her approximately $50,000 so she could cover her treatment and recover without any additional worry. The bottom line is this: if your injuries are serious, medical bills are piling up, or if any insurance company is stalling or denying your claim, it's time to call a lawyer. The consultation is usually free and you only pay if you win. Sometimes people don't know what to do after a crash, or they're too shaken up to act immediately. Maybe you left the scene without getting the details. Or maybe the driver convinced you not to call the police. Does that ruin your chance to recover damages? Not necessarily. In Indiana, while it's best to report the accident immediately, you can still make a claim after the fact as long as it's within the 2-year statute of limitations. But be aware, insurance companies may use any delay against you, arguing that your injuries weren't serious or weren't caused by the crash because of the delay. The key is to document everything you can as soon as you can. Write down what happened, get photos of your injuries, and reach out to any witnesses if possible. If you didn't go to the hospital right away, see your doctor and explain what happened. The sooner you can create a paper trail, the better. In these situations, having legal help can make all the difference. We've helped Indiana clients recover damages even when the accident wasn't reported on the spot, but it takes stronger advocacy and solid evidence to push back against the insurance companies. One last thing, what if you're a passenger in an Uber and the car that hits you takes off or doesn't have insurance at all? Indiana has more uninsured drivers than you might think. Here's the good news. Uber's uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage is there to protect you just in case of that situation. If the at-fault driver can't be found or doesn't have enough insurance, Uber's policy can step in. But don't expect a smooth ride. Proving your case can be tough when the other driver is unknown. You'll need to show that the accident happened during the Uber trip, provide as much evidence as possible, and be ready for the insurance company to push back. If this happens to you, don't wait. The sooner you start the claims process and get legal guidance, the better your chances of getting the compensation you deserve. So if you are a passenger in an Uber accident in Indiana, here's what you need to know. Take care of your health and report the accident immediately. Indiana law and Uber's insurance policy are there to protect passengers in these rideshare accidents. You can recover not just your medical bills, but lost wages, pain, and anything else that the accident caused. The insurance process can be tricky and slow, but you don't have to figure it out alone. Don't let a delayed report, a hit and run, or an uninsured driver scare you away from getting the help that you need. If you found this helpful, you cannot miss our next video. Can I sue the at-fault driver if my family member died in a crash? This is a must-watch if you want to protect your family's rights and avoid mistakes that could cost you everything. I'll see you over there.